John Murphy at murtech.com with your daily news update. Okay, here we are, November the 29th in the year of our Lord 2025. Got some pretty good information for you tonight. So let's go ahead and click over here, Murtech on Rumble. This is the video we're watching tonight, episode 1761. Let's get into that. Let's close out the live chat. Slide down here and click the Show More button to expand out the description box. We have information from ACLJ Sekulow, Explain America, Jovan Hutton Pulitzer, and Vince Dow. But before we get into that, I do have some shout-outs to give from Fun in the Sun 2 just started following my channel. Gerald just started following my channel. And Rex Realm 29, yes, 29, I think that's 29, just started following my channel. I don't have my glasses on, sorry. Ms. Flintstone 17 reposted my episode for my daily news wrap-up from last night. G5uz commented on my episode 1759, and Uncloudy commented on my episode 1760. So thank you folks for following my channel. I greatly appreciate that. I hope you're tuned in, and I hope you enjoy the content. And thank you folks for your comments and reposting my videos. I certainly appreciate that. So let me go ahead and give this a thumbs up. There we go. And I have one of those thumbs up icons here right below the video you're watching. If you want to slide down and click that, it would be fantastic. Okay, let's see what the American Center for Law and Justice has to say about Trump's DOJ sets up massive battle. All righty. Let's check this out. And just waiting on Rumble to kick off.
Don't go anywhere.
There we go. Don't go anywhere.
The Justice Department today filed a lawsuit against the state of California over its Proposition 50 initiative to create new congressional districts.
So last week, voters approved the proposition in a special election to redraw the political boundaries for next year's congressional races. It was paid for by the Democratic Party, those maps.
Prop 50 was Governor Gavin Newsom's response to a similar Republican-led effort in Texas, where Republican-led lawmakers voted to redraw its districts with the potential of picking up 5 seats.
The Trump administration accuses California of racial gerrymandering in violation of the U.S. Constitution. It accuses the state of using race as a factor to favor Hispanic voters with the new map. It asks the judge to prohibit California from using the new map in any future elections.
Attorney General Pam Bondi said in a statement to the Associated Press, quote, California's redistricting scheme is a brazen power grab that tramples on civil rights and mocks the democratic process.
Now, in order to win this case, Republicans and the Justice Department would have to prove that the maps violate the 14th and the 15th Amendments and unlawfully gerrymander voters on the basis of race.
All right, here with more U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi. So great to see you.
Great to see you,
I appreciate. I know your days are busy. I know you're working, 40-hour days, and it seems like everybody in the administration is. Okay, so he wanted to change the rules. They had a commission that would appoint and gerrymander. Tell us about this lawsuit.
It wasn't even illicit. They are flat out publicizing what they're trying to do and why they're trying to do it. They're trying to create seats based on race, and they can't do it. And we're going to hold them accountable just like any other state. I mean, they've very publicly said, Sean, what they're trying to do, and it's illegal gerrymandering. They cannot do it. So, yeah, we sued them today. We're going to continue suing California until they start complying with the laws of our country.
Welcome back to Sekulow. Like I said, phone lines are open for you. Nobody called me during the breaks, Will. 1-800-684-3110. I guess I got no question.
I wasn't as compelling enough. When you say call me, you say it with conviction.
Call me.
Right.
And I'll tell them there's 6 lines open. So this is the perfect time to call in. Perfect time if you got something to say. Say it nicely. Say it without profanity so you can make it actually on the air. Be kind to our phone screeners. Sometimes you call in and you're not, you won't make it. They get they're the decision makers in there, the phone screeners. So be nice to them when you call in at 1-800-684-3110. Of course, for those who are just joining us right now, you may have seen the headline on our YouTube channel saying breaking news, the DOJ files lawsuit against Gavin Newsom. Of course, the ACLJ, you may remember, also taking
That's right.
Gavin Newsom to court. So you know what? He's going to be spending a lot of time in court soon. But the Department of Justice will saying you can't do the redistricting like they want. Of course, you have Pam Bondi making these statements going on, even Sean Hannity last night discussing this at length.
That's right. So what the DOJ is arguing here is that the plan that they put in through Prop 50 mandates racially gerrymandered congressional districts in violation of the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment to the Constitution, as well as some Voting Rights Act issues as well. So they're saying that this plan in this redistricting map cannot be used in 2026 and beyond. They're seeking an injunction early as well, but they're going to have to fight this in court as it goes forward. Now, I think you should hear from Pam Bondi because this is Bite 9. She was on Sean Hannity's broadcast last night talking about this. They just filed this yesterday. It hasn't really made a ton of news yet, but this is what I know even our callers have been wondering. Can the federal government step in? Can there be a lawsuit? We knew that the Republican Party of California had already sued, but is there anything that the national government can do? Because they were blatant about what they were doing. They weren't saying, we think our districts have shifted so drastically, even though maybe they have because so many people are fleeing California, that we need to redistrict early. What they were saying is, no, we are doing this to fight Trump. We are going to redraw our map so we can have more power to fight the president and Republicans. So hear what Pam Bondi had to say last night, the Attorney General, on Sean Hannity's show, Bite 9.
It wasn't even illicit. They are flat out publicizing what they're trying to do and why they're trying to do it. They're trying to create seats based on race, and they can't do it. And we're going to hold them accountable just like any other state. I mean, they very publicly said, Sean, what they're trying to do, and it's illegal gerrymandering. They cannot do it. So, yeah, we sued them today. We're going to continue suing California until they start complying with the laws of our country.
And when you look at also this problem, not just in California, but around the country, it makes you wonder if there's going to be, outcry on both sides about the way that these congressional districts are drawn.
Other states potentially answering back in some ways too, for good or bad. You know, I think not necessarily for good, but for a response to this. We've got a call about that. Maybe that'll help inspire you to call it as well. Dave's calling in Indiana online too. Dave, go ahead.
Yeah, good morning. So I'm wondering, should we be calling our representatives, asking them to redistrict Indiana?
Yeah, you're saying locally in your area, should you be saying, hey, if California is doing this, why shouldn't we? Of course, two wrongs don't make a right, but some of the response of this was also coming from some response from Republican states that were presenting similar options, like in Texas and some other places that were considering things like this. So, Dave, all bets are kind of knocked off when this happens. Unfortunately, it's the way politics works, and I am sure other states are now going, oh, well, you two can play at this game.
Well, and to Dave's point, there are already members of the Indiana legislature that are looking to do this.
I don't know much about Indiana.
It has set off a firestorm, as you've said, where Texas redistrict, and they were saying that the entire purpose of their redistricting was saying that the census that took place counted too many non-citizens, because the way representation and how many seats in Congress you get are based off the population of your state, and then they allocate them that way. Texas was basically saying that because of the way that the census took place, that there were too many non-citizens that were counted in certain areas, and that messed up their maps in their previous allocation of congressional seats. So they were trying to correct what they saw was an improper allocation based off the previous census. So they were doing it early, and now different states have different laws about when you can and if you can do that. California had a law saying you cannot. Texas had different laws that were available to redraw the maps. But what did California do? What did Gavin Newsom do? They decided, okay, we don't like the law that we passed actually to try and protect independent districting, even though it's still very lopsided there in that state, as everyone knows. And what did they do? They said, we want to go around the independent commission. We want to do it our own way to combat Texas. Now, it has kind of set off a chain reaction of other states. Now, Indiana currently has a 7-2 Republican to Democrat map. So there is Democrat representation in what is a very red state. It's a very conservative state, the heartland. People don't think of Indiana as being their neighbor, Illinois, that is very blue.
It's very blue, but has very red pockets.
But
also.
what their new map would do is make it 9-0 Republican. So it has turned it from being supposed to be
politicizing everything
to everyone is going to be over gerrymandered into a way that is really
your state is going to be controlled.
To dig yourself out of that hole.
Your state will be controlled by a political party. And do you really want that? That's a whole nother question. Give me a call, 1-800-684-3110. And we do want to talk about, of course, when you talk about Gavin Newsom, you also got to talk about the work of the ACLJ. And we are out there fighting against Gavin Newsom right now.
Okay, there you have it, folks. And I did want to get that in. I am in Indiana, and I've contacted my delegates or my representatives, and there seems to be, for some reason, a reluctance to do this. Now, I don't know if they're trying to play the old Republican, this is not how we play the game. But I don't understand why, when that's exactly what the Democrats do every time. And they seem to get away with it. So I don't understand why the Republicans are taking this noble stance. But I definitely let them know that, if they expected my vote next time around, they better do something to try to redistrict the state properly. They're in charge. They have the ability to do it, so do it. Let me click on Rumble link here and show you that this video does come from American Center for Law and Justice. I'm following their channel. I've given them a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. Okay, jumping back here. Let me slide down here and explain America. Trump invalidates Biden's Autopen pardon. Now this is stunner. Now this is a little bit of tongue-in-cheek here, but I thought it was kind of cute, so I wanted to go ahead and play it for you.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, this is Carmine Sabio for Explain America, and President Donald Trump has legally and officially invalidated the first pardon of Joe Biden's administration that he could, and you're going to love it. Before we get started, please make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe. Those little things really help us out, and they help our channel continue to grow. A lot of people may have missed it because it happened when Trump did the annual pardoning of the Thanksgiving turkeys. By the way, I love this tradition. It's a cute little tradition. It's a beautiful thing. It's something that the country, but it's not political, right? It's not political. It's just, we're having some fun. Here's some cute little turkeys. We're going to pardon them. Everybody's going to have a good time. And it's nice sometimes to take a break from that politics. Of course, Trump, being Trump, said he wanted to name the turkeys Chuck and Nancy when he saw them because he's Trump. And he's always going to be comical. And to that end, a lot of people miss this part, but he invalidated the pardon of last year's turkeys. He said Biden did it with an Autopen. That pardon is not valid, and re-pardoned them correctly. Now, of course, this is not an official thing, right? It's not a pardon that's on the books, but it's cute. Media, Democrat media, of course, they're upset about it because they don't know how to have a good time. They forgot how to laugh. They forgot how to be joyous. They forgot how to smile, how to not take everything so damn seriously. Us, on the conservative side, we have fun. That's why when you look at us, I turned 48 today. Hopefully I look younger than I am. I think I do. But when you look at us, we kind of look happier and younger. And I don't know, I see a lot more conservatives smiling. A lot more conservatives look younger and beautiful to me. And you look at these Democrats, man, as they get older, they age like witches. It's literally horrible. I think that evil eats them. It eats at them. Anyway, I thought this was funny, so I wanted to share it with you. So I want you to watch this and let me know what you think in the comments.
Before going any further, I want to make an important announcement because you remember last year, after a thorough and very rigorous investigation by Pam Bondi and all of the people at Department of Justice, the FBI, the CIA, the White House counsel's office, and the Department of Everything. We have a Department of Everything. You know what that is? I think that's called the White House. Into a terrible situation caused by a man named Sleepy Joe Biden. He used an Autopen last year for the turkey's pardon. So I have the official duty to determine, and I have determined that last year's turkey pardons are totally invalid, as are the pardons of about every other person that was pardoned other than, where's Hunter? No, Hunter's was good. That was the one pardon, Pam, that was good, right? The rest of them are all invalid. I don't know what the hell you're going to do about that, but now we're going to take a little of the joking. That is a mess. But they're hereby null and void. The turkeys known as Peach and Blossom last year have been located, and they were on their way to be processed. In other words, to be killed. But I have stopped that journey, and I am officially pardoning them, and they will not be served for Thanksgiving dinner. We saved them in the nick of time. This one has plenty of time, but they were saved in the nick of time.
All right, there you have it, folks. I'll tell you, and a lot of times the mainstream media or the Democrats, they just don't understand that he has a sense of humor, okay? Everything that he says, you can tell when he's upset, and you can tell when he's joking. But the mainstream media everything is just, orange man bad. Okay, let's get back here and see what we've got going with Jovan, Hutton, Pulitzer. But before we do that, I want to share some. Let me go ahead and get into this. I'm going to play the introduction that he actually is sharing from Babylon Bee. I thought that was interesting. Then we're going to kick it up to about the 25-minute and 38-second mark. Okay, so let's watch this. Take a listen. Good stuff. Okay, folks, I'm going to have to refresh this. Hang on, and we'll get the audio back.
Sehr gut. Sehr gut.
I'm a time traveler from the year 2025, and I've come here to kill you, Hitler.
Oh, not again. I'm never gonna have enough time to finish these paintings with all of these time travelers trying to kill me.
Well, I'm going to succeed.
Before you pull the trigger, can I just ask why? Why do all of you people want to kill me?
Isn't it obvious? I'm a progressive, a liberal, a fighter for social justice. And you are a fascist who implemented a reign of terror. And while the effects of your policies devastated the world for decades, soon we will be able to take back the White House, and we will be able to use the government to force people to follow our great ideas.
You want to use government power to force your ideas on the populace. Me too! That's fantastic!
What? No. Ugh. You and I have nothing in common. What I'm saying is there are people in our time with dangerous ideas, and we need to silence them.
Silencing those who disagree with you. I do that too! Oh, wunderbar! Oh, the Nazi movement will not die with me.
Don't give me that! I'm enlightened, and you're as bad as... Well, as Hitler. Listen, what I'm trying to say is we are very close to implementing a utopia, as long as we can get rid of some certain undesirable people groups.
Yes, like the Jews.
Yes, like the Jews. Oh.
So in the future, you also do not like the Jews?
Well, no. But we don't believe in segregating all the races like you do. I mean, except for like graduation ceremonies. And dorms. And hiring practices. Oh, and admissions policies. That sort of thing.
I too am a fan of the segregation. I'm sorry, I have to ask, is this a real firearm or is this some kind of toy for kids?
It's a flare gun. I'm trying not to support America's toxic gun culture. I'm a firm believer in gun control.
Gun control! This was one of my ideas too. Ban them from the undesirables. Yes, look here. Oh, and your shirt. This is an organization founded by Margaret Sanger. Yes?
Wait, you know about Margaret Sanger?
Jawohl, of course. Oh, she's such a lovely person.
No. She's a fighter for reproductive rights, for women's empowerment,
and the eradication of undesirable populations by means of eugenics. Brilliant lady, very inspiring. I must use some of her ideas in our socialized healthcare system.
Socialized healthcare? That's not your thing. That's our thing.
No, it's very much my thing. Did you know that Nazi means National Socialist German Workers' Party? Nazi is just more catchy. Nazi. Just rolls off the tongue.
No. This can't be true. This has to be some sort of mistake. We are nothing alike. You're Adolf Hitler, evil right-wing fascist dictator, and I'm a feminist restorative justice advocate. And a vegetarian.
You're a vegetarian? Me too!
Okay, I am so confused right now. I came here with a clear goal in mind to kill the most evil man who I've ever lived. Besides Ronald Reagan. But now that I'm meeting you in person, you're not at all what I thought you were. And your painting is actually really good. What do you call it?
I call it Ein Reich ohne Juden.
Wow. I don't know what that means, but it sounds beautiful.
It does, doesn't it?
Okay, I'm sorry. I thought that was very interesting, and I wanted to share it with you. Okay, let's get up here to because he does a lot of advertisement and stuff in the beginning here, and he's going to actually get to some information about the 25-minute and 38-second mark. About right here.
Hogs are brutal.
Now he talks kind of slow, so I'm sorry. I'm going to speed this up. If you have a problem with this, let me know in the comments. But here we go.
Very smart animals. Some hogs, I just want to let you know, are dumber than stumps. Speaking of dumber than stumps, hogs, did you see this post by Rosie O'Donnell? Now, I want to do some logical thinking. She posted this online, says, we're not asking, we're shutting it down. Mass blackout, November 25th through December 2nd. The largest economic blackout protest in U.S. history begins November 25th. No work, no projects, no spending, no events, no restaurants, no restaurants. They mentioned restaurants twice, so I'm pretty sure Rosie came up with this meme herself because that's a big part of her life. Anyway, it's true. Okay. And so it says, it's not a blackout. No blackout. Prepare for the impact. To prevent spiked spending before and after the blackout. Now, pay attention to this word. To prevent spiked spending before and after the blackout, we ask that all participants purchase goods needed from community-owned stores and markets leading up to and after the dates. This helps with sustained impact and keeps our money out of the mega businesses' pockets. Coordinated national pushback, maximum local impact. And ironically, she's calling for this. And as you know, she's applied for her citizenship in Ireland. Now, let's do a little bit of logical thinking about this. She's calling for a blackout, right? November 25th through December 2nd. What's wrong with both her call to action and her explanation of how to do it? Did you catch it? I've always told you, liberals never think anything through. Never think anything through. What is wrong with her particular analysis? Did you catch it? Get ready. Let's say you're going to participate in this event, and we're going to do maximum economic damage to the system. Now, it's technically Thanksgiving time, which is okay, no problem. But she thinks it's going to be maximum damage, okay? Now, it's kind of stupid because you're probably going to find out that they're going to claim tremendous numbers of people participated. Well, it's Thanksgiving. Duh. But let me give you another one, right? Kind of racist calling it a blackout, too. Why didn't you call it a whiteout? Because she's got white privilege. Anyway. You ready for this? Here, get this. She gives you one little instructional footnote. Buy your shit in advance. November 25th to December 2nd. And she says, in order to prepare, buy your shit in advance. Which really means, will you hurry up and buy it all, and then let's play like we're protesting? Truly, think about it. What an idiot. What a total idiot. What a total idiot. Basically saying, we're going to hurt the system. We're from November 25th to December 2nd. We're not going to go to work. We're not going to spend. We're not going to do projects. We're not going to do events. We're not going to go to a restaurant. We're not going to go to a restaurant. We're not going to go to a restaurant. Not going to go to a restaurant. And in order to do this, I want you to go out now because we'll just say you have a month. You got a month and buy all the shit you need now. So we heard them then. Do you get the failed operational linear thinking logic in that? Go stock up now so we can hurt them later. All you did was move the money, if people actually follow it, a little bit earlier in the timeline, but you idiot, they still spent the money. She gets an E for effort, and she gets an E for eating everything within sight. But that's the logic of Rosie. And we're kind of doing a gut check. I want a gut check. I want a reality check of what's going on. And what these people don't realize, especially what liberals don't realize, is everything that is free, the reality is paid for by someone who works. And it's amazing how many young people don't understand that. They have no concept, because we don't teach economics in classes anymore. They have no concept. Only to realize
up there.
that they, along with us, are the very ones that pay for everything. That pay for everything. And so in this program, we're going to kind of do a little bit of a gut check. I want to know what you're thinking. I want to see what you're thinking in chat. I want to see how you feel about everything going on. The first thing to put in chat is, do you think we're doing better? Somebody said Rumble had an issue. Sometimes if you get a Rumble issue, I know there's a lot of hacking on Rumble, right? Just hit refresh. There's a lot of hooks in the system and stuff. Just hit refresh. But that's why you want to follow the multiple channels, just in case anything kind of goes wrong in the broadcast, because they're mucking with it all the time. Now, I know how you feel. As we're talking about this, I know how you feel. Right? I know what you're thinking because it's too much. You're probably thinking this. And by the way, you remember the little ditty we did, Whose Side Are You On? You remember that little ditty? Here's another anthem that you're probably thinking.
I don't give a fuck anymore, a fuck anymore, a fuck anymore. I don't give a fuck anymore, a fuck anymore, a fuck anymore.
Kind of catchy, isn't it?
I don't give a fuck anymore, a fuck anymore, a fuck anymore. I don't give a fuck anymore, a fuck anymore, a fuck anymore.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and pause it there. I do want to share some information here from Chicago Steak Company, okay? So let's go ahead and share this.
Chicago Steak Company is dedicated to providing you the ultimate steak experience. Great pride goes into our products, and this is evident throughout the whole process behind our steaks.
Hi, I'm Chef Philippe. I've been a corporate chef for over 25 years, and I'm here to tell you that the ultimate steak experience starts with the beef. The origin, the feed, and the care. Here at Chicago Steak Company, all of our cattle is 100% domestic, and it is raised here in the Midwest. We offer both grass-fed and corn-fed option, and all of our cattle is treated humanely and with focus on sustainability. The very best beef comes from cattle that are allowed to roam free and graze on open plains. This attention to animal welfare is key to providing the absolute best beef, and that's what we deliver. But you don't have to take my word for it. Listen to what others are saying about Chicago Steak Company.
Thousands of 5-star customer reviews are posted all over the web. Inc. magazine listed us as a top gift for the foodie in your life, and Business Insider dubbed our steaks unforgettable. Our steaks competed head-on in a blind taste test of America's top beef purveyors. This great steak debate was hosted by Iron Chef Mark Forgione, and Chicago Steak Company won the People's Choice Award for Best Steak. It's clear that a Chicago Steak Company steak is the ultimate steak experience.
Our dedication to a quality steak extends beyond selling a product. We believe that education is key, regardless of where you buy your steak from. It's this belief that drove us to create Steak University. This site is dedicated to educating people about all things beef. With hundreds of recipes, articles, and how-to videos, it's no wonder why millions of people visit this site every year to learn how to be a steak expert.
With several lines of beef to cover the full spectrum of flavor profiles in gourmet beef, Chicago Steak Company is the steak authority. All of our steaks are artisan-aged 28 days or more, ensuring an extremely tender and flavorful steak. The finest steak houses and chefs in the U.S. prefer USDA Prime, so rare that only 2% of the beef in the U.S. qualifies, and we specialize in it. The abundant marbling in these steaks melts into the beef during the cooking process. The result is a rich flavor and buttery texture. In addition to wet-aged beef, we offer Old World dry aging options in our USDA Prime line. Simply put, if it's not labeled USDA Prime, it's not.
Okay, there you have it, folks. Great information, and also you can get, I believe that it has like, you can get $250 worth of steaks for like $80 if you use their promo code, and that's BLKFRI1, Black Friday 1, if you go there. So great information, good food. I've had some of this. Actually, it does taste pretty good. Okay, but let's go ahead and click on the right here, the Jovan Hutton Pulitzer page. I am following his channel. I've given him a thumbs up. I'm just like 34 minutes into this 2-hour and 35-minute video, and I'm sharing this in my daily news wrap-up tonight so you can see the rest of it if you'd like. Okay, let's jump back here and move on down to Vince Dow. We haven't shared his information for a while, but he's got some good. Trump announces jaw-dropping ban on Afghan migration as stunning details emerge around D.C. Now, this you may have heard about this before, but I want you to hear Vince's perspective on this because he definitely has some pretty good stuff. Let's take a listen here.
Countries, because
and let me get it back to the beginning for you. There we go. All righty.
Why do you blame the Biden administration?
Because they let him in. Are you stupid?
Now, President Trump definitely has a way with words. It would be nice if he would tone it down just a little bit, though, because there are some people on the, the independents. They're kind of touchy-feely. Some of them are. I'm sure that he got a lot of votes from the independents, but I also think that they don't appreciate the way he talks to people sometimes.
You a stupid person? Because they came on a plane along with thousands of other people that shouldn't be here, and you're just asking questions because you're a stupid person. And there's a law passed that it's almost impossible not to get them out. You can't get them out once they come in. And they came in, and they were unvetted, they were unchecked, there were many of them.
So after it's now been confirmed that the Washington, D.C. National Guard shooter was indeed an illegal migrant from Afghanistan brought into this country under the Biden administration, yeah, go figure, this week Trump is responding by announcing he will be ending all third world migration, as he calls it. So in other words, what does that mean? Maybe we should stop importing people from countries that not only are war-torn, but actively have an Islamic terror problem that's widespread, and much of the population resents the United States. Yeah, maybe that's just not a smart thing to do. And maybe your claims about how you're going to vet these people or you can reasonably screen when so much of the country feels that way is a bunch of garbage, as we just saw, for instance, in Washington, D.C. But he's not stopping there. The administration is also looking to potentially review millions of current visas and green cards of people who come from Afghanistan and some of those Middle Eastern countries to find any inconsistencies or problems, whether they're using government benefits, whether they potentially have criminal records or something is not right about the application, we'll say, is there potential fraud. All of this stuff clearly needs to be redone because I don't know if you've noticed, guys, I know it doesn't get talked about a lot, but there seems to be a growing Islamic terror problem in the West right now. It's almost like going back to 2014, 2015 all over again, if you remember back then, right? We just saw an ISIS terror plot get foiled in Michigan over Halloween. We saw this happen right now from an Afghan national. There was Boulder, Colorado earlier this year, and who could forget all of the car attacks over the past 2 years in Europe? This is a serious problem, and perhaps now is finally the time to admit, hey, if a problem is coming from a certain place, maybe you should, shut off the pipe, right? If you're having a big water leak, close the pipes before you can figure out trying to repair the situation. So anyways, we'll tell you about all of this here today. Again, the now confirmed identity of the Washington D.C. shooter. I mean, go figure. Initially, we speculated, hey, it could be a leftist. Well, it turns out it wasn't directly a leftist. It's just someone who was enabled to do this by a leftist. I mean, go figure, many such cases, as well as apparently how the Trump administration is responding and, of course, being called the evil, mean, bad guy for doing something that clearly makes so much common sense. So we'll get into it, guys. First, though, do us a favor. If you enjoy our content, make sure you hit that like button down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. That's not only the best way to support our work, but it also ensures that you can stay up to date with all the latest news and coverage. And that said, so just to, start off, here is, of course, what we now know about the Afghan illegal migrant terrorist out of D.C. this week.
We've seen a difference in Washington, D.C. Crime is down
Hold on,
significantly.
Chairman, hold on. We just got this. I need to get to it. This just in, sources are telling Fox News that the shooter is an illegal immigrant from Afghanistan who came in during Operation Allies, welcome under the Biden administration, and he overstayed that visa. All right, Chairman. So Fox News is learning that this person was here illegally, overstayed his visa, and that's who this shooter profile is. What's your immediate reaction?
Well, my immediate reaction is we tried desperately to get an accounting of all the people that came from Afghanistan to the United States during that disastrous withdrawal during the Biden administration. That was a huge priority for the House Oversight Committee. We never got that information. We were never allowed to get that information because I don't think the government had any idea. I don't think they kept an accurate accounting. And if they did, I think they realized there were probably lots of gaps. We were told there were going to be about 2,000 people that had worked with our military as people that tried to help with the cause to help protect our troops in Afghanistan. Right. But then at the end of the day, there were closer to 100,000. But we don't know what that number was, and I don't think the government has kept good track of it. And I'm sure there were mistakes that were made.
Yeah, well, that's so typical of the Biden administration, is it not? They tell you, hey, we're just bringing in 2,000 or so Afghan collaborators who were our allies and helped us during the war. And then it turns out it's about 100,000 random Afghans that we really don't know much about. They could be Taliban, they could be Al-Qaeda, but hey, don't be a bigot, right? Don't be an Islamophobe. Don't ask too many questions, even if you're on the oversight committee of the House. That's not allowed. Now, here's what's really interesting about this suspect in particular. Is on one hand, he did come here, by my understanding, on a legal visa, but he overstayed that visa, never tried to renew it. So that's why we call him an illegal migrant. But that's only part of the story. Secondly, as you can see here from the Post-Millennial, according to intelligence sources, Ram Anullah Lakanwal had established a working relationship with various American agencies, including the CIA. He served in the Afghan army and fought alongside U.S. Special Forces against the Taliban in Kandahar, a region central to counterterrorism operations, according to Fox News. Now, the 29-year-old entered the United States in September 2021, shortly after the Biden administration's disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan. He arrived under what was called Operation Allies Welcome, the federal program created to resettle Afghans who had assisted U.S. military and intelligence operations during the 2-decade war, and was settled in Washington state. He ultimately ended up driving across the country to D.C. to shoot some National Guard members. So clearly a very good ally we had. Now, what the left and some of the contrarians are trying to say about this is, oh, well, he was vetted, right? Because he was a former, apparently, like a CIA asset. The government had tabs on him. They brought him over. So clearly there was no way we could have possibly seen this coming, right? He's not just some illegal, they're trying to basically say. He's not just some illegal who poured over the border. But to me, I look at the situation and say that's the exact problem. Because first and foremost, let me just say, this is not the first time that a former CIA asset from Afghanistan commits a major terror attack against the United States, if you know what I'm talking about there. His name is Osama bin Laden. He collaborated with the U.S. during the 1980s because he didn't want the Soviet Union invading. Yeah, it turns out that maybe was not such a good idea. So clearly, right, this whole idea, oh, CIA asset from Afghanistan, yeah, maybe you should learn lessons from history. But of course, that goes back to what we just talked about, right, with the neocons. The whole idea is to fight them over there so that you don't have to fight them here, and yet we're fighting them in both places. You know, they just lied to us. The first thing, honestly, America should have done after 9/11 was seal the border and really, heavily reform and restrict the immigration system. And yet, apparently, the Bush administration did the opposite. But anyways, that's on one hand. Secondly, though, this to me rings eerily similar to the debate around Syrian refugees, if you remember that from about a decade ago. Because the argument at the time that the Obama administration and the liberals were making, as, by the way, Syrian refugees, especially in Europe, there were some cases in America, but especially in Europe, were causing widespread social problems. There was mass crime. There were many different terrorist attacks back in the 2010s, if you remember. But the excuse was, oh, we're going to vet them, right? We're going to make sure they're not ISIS or they're not Islamic terrorists. But it's like, how exactly can you even reasonably do that? Right? You say the word vetting, but you never explain what it means. Because sure, you can pull up some basic, say, CIA intelligence to say, okay, this person is not a card-carrying member of ISIS or Al-Qaeda or whatever. But how are you going to figure out what they think, right? Again, a country like Afghanistan, a country like Syria, you're talking about a place where wide masses of the population have beliefs that we would call radical, right? For instance, 99% of the population of Afghanistan, according to Pew Research, as of like 5-10 years ago, believes in Sharia law. We would all call that radical. They want a forcible implementation of Sharia law. So inevitably, right, When you're bringing over a mass population of people, there's a very high chance that's what you're going to get. And how are you going to vet for that ideology? How can you figure out what's going on in their head? You're going to give them a questionnaire. Hey, are you a terrorist? Do you support ISIS? Are you a jihadist? Obviously, they're going to check off no, right? That's why I say there is no actual sincere, reasonable way to truly vet people. So you have to make a common sense understanding, especially given, by the way, we don't exactly have a friendly government like that of, say, Western Europe or Canada, where we can share data with to figure out, hey, what's this person's record? What's this person's record? What is their background? That it probably makes much more sense, I would argue, with a country like Afghanistan to simply say, yeah, we cannot reasonably guarantee national security by allowing migration from this place. Maybe it ought to be cut off altogether.
And let me say one more thing, and it's not about this case, it's about vetting in general. The nonsense that the left gave us with this Operation Welcome Allies. Look, there was no vetting. If you think there was vetting, I have a bridge to sell you. If you saw the chaos that was going on at that airport in Kabul, in Afghanistan, it was typical of what was going on in the Biden administration. And the Pentagon, I believe it was Kirby and people in the Biden administration, said the Afghan withdrawal that we all know was disastrous was a success. And that's a quote. They called that a success. That chaos is not a success. That is a nightmare. And 13 American servicemen and women were killed at that airport because the Biden administration couldn't get their facts together and couldn't make a decision regarding the rules of engagement to take down a known suicide bomber. So let's stop namby-pambing around with this, oh, he was vetted. There was no vetted. The welcome mat was thrown down. They even admitted that they short-circuited the vetting. What they did was they brought in 90,000 people into this country that were not vetted. They told us all the other immigrants were vetted. What do? Call the FBI in Afghanistan and say, gee, do you have anything on this guy? Did we call Venezuela and say, gee, how about your criminal justice system? What can you tell me about this guy? It's like the 10, 20 million illegals who've been let into this country. We don't know who they are until we suffer the consequences that we have seen in Washington. And I was on that scene, and it is a very sad place. And Sarah Beckstrom and her family did not deserve this. They should have been protected, which is the first order of government. And the left ought to stop their nonsense.
Yep, exactly as I've been saying, right? What are you going to do? Call their FBI and ask them? They don't exactly have one. And if they do, they're not giving it to you. So I don't think there's genuinely a good faith way you can say we have a secure vetting process for any of these countries, because it's logistically impossible. But even if there was, clearly the Biden administration even then still took a lot of shortcuts. And of course, that's why we are where we are with the situation. I would further point out, if I were to take a wild guess about this one terrorist, let me just say, just because someone is a CIA asset working in the Middle East does not mean they're not also a terrorist, because let us not forget, right? The very leader in Syria, who's actually now in charge of the country, but the rebel leader was a former member of Al-Qaeda. But they were trying to fight who? Bashar al-Assad, whose government we were against. I mean, that's a pretty normal thing where there's a radical Islamist, there's terrorists who maybe probably were against the Taliban for some whatever reason, right? So they were fighting. So we were kind of just trying to divide and conquer and do, U.S. policy there. But it doesn't necessarily mean those people like America either. And again, you want a prime example of a CIA asset turning on us. The most historic, notable example himself is Osama bin Laden. So please, again, get all this garbage out of your head about vetting or that even being possible or the Biden administration having done it. And I'd further like to point out here, guys, that this is not just an isolated incident of the problems with Afghan nationals causing crime in this country, being a huge dependency and a drain on, for instance, financial resources. I mean, it was just back in April where another Afghan migrant who was moved into the U.S. with his family launched a shooting attack on police in Fairfax, Virginia. Only about a 20-minute drive from Washington, D.C. and the Capitol, where this attack happened during Thanksgiving week. So this is what we're dealing with, right? It is this common. And keep in mind, the Afghan population is not very large in the United States. And when you look at the per capita rate at which violence and terrorism seems to be happening, it's extraordinarily high. And I don't think that should be a big mystery to anyone, right? But apparently he made anti-white statements while he said he wished he had helped the Taliban. Oh, really? But he was vetted, right? Surely. Do you think he said that, by the way, while the immigration officers were vetting him? Obviously not. You know, that's again here the problem. He shot 2 officers before being shot dead. And we've pointed this out as well, too, by the way. But when you look at, for instance, immigrant households and government dependency, whether that's SNAP, Section 8, for instance, we pointed out 45% of all Afghan households in the United States, almost half of all of them are relying on SNAP benefits. In other words, what did we do with the migration system? Import our own bankruptcy, right? Import a bunch of tax dependents who are going to take money more from the system than they're putting in. This problem is generally pretty large and significant in this country, but I'd like to point out among Afghan and Somali, those are the top 2. Right, who have been causing a lot of the most financial problems as of late for reasons that you could probably surmise. After all, they're coming from these war-torn countries that are highly dysfunctional, okay? So where do you expect, say, a lot of terrorism to be coming from, a lot of financial fraud to be coming from, a lot of just inability to live self-sufficiently to be coming from? Of course, it's going to be coming from the so-called third world migration that President Trump is pointing out. So that said, here is the brand new statement on apparently what will now be the response after watching, again, it turns out multiple different terror attacks by Afghan nationals this year amidst, as I said, a sort of rising noticeable tide of Islamic terrorism in the West. Well, President Trump says a very happy Thanksgiving salutation to all of our great American citizens and patriots who have been so nice in allowing our country to be divided, disrupted, carved up, murdered, beaten, mugged, and laughed at, along with certain other foolish countries throughout the world for being politically correct and just plain stupid indeed when it comes to immigration. The official U.S. Census foreign population, foreign-born people, stands at 53 million people, most of which are on welfare, which we've covered, by the way. That number is actually close to 50%, right? When you count in the household, if their kids are receiving it, right? So most of them are on welfare. They're taking more money from the system than they're putting in from failed nations like Afghanistan, like Somalia, like Syria, right? Or from prisons, mental institutions, gangs, or drug cartels, i.e. Venezuela. Noticing a pattern here in terms of a bunch of countries where people came in to the United States from, in the past 4 years, right? Anyways, they and their children are supported through massive payments from patriotic American citizens who, because of their beautiful hearts, do not want to openly complain or cause trouble in any way, shape, or form. This is true. They put up with what has happened to our country, but it's eating them alive. A migrant earning $30,000 with a green card will get roughly $50,000 in yearly benefits for their family. So that's a drain of what? $20,000 on the tax system. You do the math on a wide scale among 53 million people, so about half of that population, so like 20 million. And please tell me, do you think that's going to cause, for instance, if you're a conservative, national debt to skyrocket or go down somehow? Of course, the national debt's going up. Even if you're a liberal. And this is the message I always try to make to the left. It's like, some of your ideas I'd be willing to at least have a respectful conversation about if you at least admitted, hey, if we want to have social programs, you need to have a way to ensure that more people are paying taxes into the system than taking out, right? And you guys, for whatever reason, are so obsessed with feeding all of the migrants of the world that, like, how do you expect, for instance, something like SNAP or Social Security or Section 8, any of these different programs that you like, welfare payments, whatever it is, it doesn't matter, okay? If there's more tax dependency than there is tax contribution from a bunch of the country, and you just keep on importing that, obviously social programs can't sustain either. So whatever you're passionate about, as I so often say, a lot of it ties back to immigration. You wonder why it's not working, right? You wonder why we can't have nice things in this country. It's because we're literally importing our own bankruptcy, as you're seeing right here, okay? I don't think it's any coincidence that social programs have come undone in the past several decades in most Western countries. Education has gone downhill in quality. Schools are sometimes overcrowded. That's often a complaint. The debt crisis is exploding. Where do you think all this stuff is coming from? It seems pretty obvious, right? The real migrant population, though, is much higher. This refugee burden is the leading cause of social dysfunction in America, something that did not exist after World War II. Failed schools, high crime, urban decay, overcrowded hospitals, something I didn't even notice, right? The healthcare, that's another thing to point out. Overcrowded hospitals, housing shortages, large deficits, etc. As an example, hundreds of thousands of refugees from Somalia, as we talked about here on the channel, are completely taking over the once great state of Minnesota. Somalian gangs are roving the streets looking for prey as our wonderful people stay locked in their apartments and hoping against hope that they will be left alone. The seriously, he says here the R word, right? The seriously retarded governor of Minnesota, Tim Walz, does nothing, either through fear, incompetence, or both, while the worst congressman/woman in our country, Ilhan Omar, always wrapped in her swaddling hijab, and who probably came to the USA illegally, in that you are not allowed to marry your brother, true, does nothing but hatefully complain about our country, its constitution, and how badly she is treated, when her place of origin is a decadent, backward, and crime-ridden nation, which is essentially not even a country for lack of government, military, police, schools, etc. And that is right. President Trump is the one saying all of this. Okay. Pretty impressive. I mean, I'm not disagreeing. I'm not disagreeing, but isn't it great, right, to have a president who's willing to tell this truth? Because you could probably imagine, I haven't even looked, liberal media is probably tearing this apart. It's racist, it's bigoted, you can't say that about this, you can't call Tim Walz that, you can't call Ilhan Omar that. And Trump is literally saying, we're not going to allow, and this is very important, right, political correctness or liberal suicidal empathy, which we describe and talk about all the time, to override the common sense duty that a government actually has to protect its own citizens and make actions and perform duties that better and protect their own citizens, you know? But anyways, even as we have progressed technologically, immigration policy has eroded those gains and living conditions for many. I will permanently pause migration from all third world countries to allow the U.S. system to fully recover, terminate all the millions of Biden illegal admissions, including those signed by Sleepy Joe Biden's Autopen, and remove anyone who is not a net asset to the United States or is incapable of loving our country, end all federal benefits and subsidies to non-citizens of our country, denaturalize migrants who undermine domestic tranquility, and deport any foreign national who is a public charge, security risk, or non-compatible with Western civilization. So in other words, you're a radical jihadi, you're a communist, you're importantly a public charge, which means you're on welfare, you're on government benefits, you're a security risk because you're a so-called vetted Biden migrant. We're not dealing with it anymore, is what he's saying. And he's also further, basically, whatever this means, right, permanently pausing all third world migration. I think there's a list of like 10, 20 countries or something that were provided. In other words, no more of these refugees from countries that clearly are going to commit terrorism against us. Yeah, I know. Crazy that that's a political debate, but it has been for the past decade if you've been paying attention. These goals will be pursued with the aim of achieving a major reduction in illegal and disruptive populations. There's a per capita rate, and it's very high in certain ones, right, from certain countries, including those admitted through an unauthorized and illegal Autopen approval process. Only reverse migration can fully cure the situation. Other than that, happy Thanksgiving to all, except those that hate, steal, murder, and destroy everything that America stands for. You won't be here for long. So I'm sure, obviously, woke judges are going to try to get in the way of this, but assuming this can go through, okay, definitely long overdue. Should have been the national policy, obviously, to begin with, and it turns out as well. Here was Stephen Miller announcing it's not just in terms of illegal migrants anymore at this point. We also need to review most of the legal visas that are given out because clearly there seems to be a systemic problem here. Take a listen.
Biden administration, the Democrats have inflicted on this nation the worst national security threat in our history. We've never faced a threat like this. 20 million people brought into our country from the most failed societies on earth. Afghanistan, Somalia, Libya, Iraq, brought here. No vetting, no conditions, no rules. Brought here on visas, brought here as refugees, brought here as asylees, brought here as illegals. Brought here in every way imaginable, by plane, train, bus, automobile, by land, by sea. For 4 straight years, they deluged this country. And now more blood is being spilled as a result. What you heard tonight from President Trump, the breaking news here tonight, is saying that his government is going to accelerate efforts to review every person added to this country over the last 20 years, or the last 4 years, all 20 million. Now, obviously, if you're illegal, you're out automatically. But everybody else who is brought here, refugee, asylum status, whatever status, as he said, if you're not someone who loves this country, if you're not adding benefit to this country, then we're going to send you out of this country because it's enough already. No one else has to die. No one else has to be murdered. No one else has to be shot. No more empty seats are needed at the Thanksgiving table or the Christmas table because of what Democrats have done to this country. So tonight we heard from a commander-in-chief a historic announcement, a brave announcement, exactly what America needed to hear, Kellyanne.
Right, exactly as we've been saying on this channel for many months now. And let me say, it's not just an action that's long overdue. This is 9/11 long overdue, right? You want to talk about never forget or finally writing the record of what we did in response to all of that? Let's not forget. And I think it gets ignored a lot. But a huge component of 9/11 is fundamentally an immigration story. How did they get into this country? Why were those people given visas? Why was there never a reasonable expectation that, hey, you know, maybe people coming from parts of the Middle East that have heavy ratios of jihadi and Islamist beliefs will come to this country and likely cause problems here, right? Because again, what was the slogan? Fight them over there so we don't have to fight them over here. Well, that doesn't really seem all that compatible if you bring them over here, doesn't it? Right? What should have been done the day after 9/11 was exactly this, right? A pausing of all migration from these countries, a closing of the borders, which Bush basically never did because he was a neocon, obviously. And yes, a reviewing of basically, if we can get to it, almost all the visas in this country, right? Just make sure it's legitimate. Make sure they're not sucking money out of the tax system because they're not supposed to be technically by what they sign when they get the green card, right? So you gotta do all this stuff. And it's shocking that, you know, despite all of the patriotic fervor back then, the Bush administration took that political capital and said, what? Oh, let's go do Iraq and let's do the Patriot Act. But let's never solve the fundamental problem here, which is clearly a foreign-born ideology and a foreign-born problem is infiltrating this country. And maybe we should actually take steps to prevent that instead of encourage it. So I don't know, just some thoughts I have. But anyways, let me know your thoughts on this move in the comment section down below. It's exciting. What do you think of the Trump statement? Let me know. Be sure to leave a like on this video. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. Prayers out to those National Guards members. I know the female one apparently has just passed away. Our condolences are with her family. We're praying for the male soldier who's still in critical condition right now. It's a tragic and horrible situation. And the infuriating part is that it's preventable, right? It's totally preventable. So let me know your thoughts. Leave a like down below. Subscribe. God bless and peace.
Okay, folks, let me pause it there. Like 2 seconds left in this. It does come from Vince Dow, as I said. I am subscribed to his channel. I've given him a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. And the thing is, folks, there are so many, 20 million, they say, or what, 50 million illegals, people that are not citizens, that are voting here in the United States. I'll tell you what, if we get that cleaned up, I would be amazed at how many Republicans would be in charge of this country. We would have the opportunity to actually get some of those bad apples out of the bushel. Because I'll tell you, the only reason Democrats are winning in most of these situations are because of the illegals voting for them. Absolutely amazing. Okay, let's take a break here with 1775 Coffee and see what they have to say. All right, well, maybe not. Let me check this out here. Oh yeah, Morning Kick. Here we go. My mistake.
Hey you, there's this video. It's from Chuck Norris. Yeah, it was insane. He's in his 80s and says he still feels like he's in his 50s.
It was pretty shocking. He had some pretty cool tips in there too on what he's doing, including these 3 foods that he avoids like the plague.
He explained all the things he was doing, and it was super simple. They're so easy, and you can do them right at home. When I first saw this, I knew I had to share this with you all.
Since what happened to Chuck could also happen for you too. But with any new method, of course, your results can vary. But the video is definitely worth checking out.
Watch his method now by clicking the link in chat or scanning the QR code on your screen. You won't believe how simple it is.
Okay, here we are then. I've just actually copied the chats, the live chats, into a comment, so they will be a permanent part of this video. And let's come up here and let me remind you folks that these videos that I share with you are videos that come directly from the producers. I've got the links to their videos and the links to their channels right here in the description box. And these videos that I share with you are videos that I've posted here on Mertech.com. Right there's the video from ACLJ that I shared with you. Right down here is the video from Vince Dow that I shared with you. Jovan Hutton, right up here, this is all in alphabetical order. There's the video I shared with you from him and from Explain America. You know, I have over 55 videos here on Mertech.com. I'd like to share all of them with you, but unfortunately, I just don't have the time to do that. And that is why I have my daily news wrap-up. And I'm putting that together right now. This is it, my daily news wrap-up playlist. I've got 15 videos in here, and a lot of them are fairly long. I've got some short ones in here from the Rubin Report and On the Fringe, and Timcast, Viva Fry, Truth Bomb Mary. Let me go ahead and rearrange this some for you and take a break. Go ahead and have a donut and a cup of coffee or a sandwich and a soft drink or a beer, and meet me back here at 9:30 while I get my playlist kind of rearranged and set up my Rumble Studio for my daily news wrap-up. So with that being said, I do want to thank you for spending the time with me this evening. Hopefully, I'll get to see you again later, and may God bless.